What's going on, guys? So today I'm going to talk about a horror film that I feel like is really underappreciated and a brand new horror film. Being the month of October, there's been a lot of talk about Halloween Kills and the Chucky TV series and even the Scream preview for next year. And it's really awesome to see a lot of these beloved properties getting new material added to the overall franchise, or remade properties, or anything involving horror. It's just really exciting to see all of the new and original content coming out. About a week ago, saw a promo for the Slumber Party Massacre remake, which I wasn't even aware was happening. I think the Slumber Party Massacre is a super underrated and incredible slasher film that a lot of people overlook and don't pay attention to, either because of the hokey poster or the premise to the film. But there's a lot more going on underneath the surface in the film than a lot of people give it credit for. Yeah, I really love the original property, and I had to jump on Sci-Fi and watch the premiere of the remake film after I read a lot of reviews about it saying how great it was and the approach to it was different. And I was pleasantly surprised. I was very thrilled with the execution of the film. I thought it was really well made. And so in this video, I want to talk about both versions and kind of compare the two of them, talk about, how I think each one is good in its own right, and just kind of give you my overall opinions on both. So the Slumber Party Massacre from 1982 is directed by Amy Holden Jones. And I was really excited when I watched this the first time to see a 1980s slasher film directed from the perspective of a woman. And I thought that it was really awesome to see what kind of vision that a woman would have for a slasher film, because obviously a lot of the popular 80s slasher movies were shot by men, written by men, so it has a very male gaze, and just like the way women are viewed and perceived was through a very specific lens, and it was a very masculine lens. And it's disappointing that more women haven't been directing slashers, because I always get excited to see films directed by women that have been controlled by men for so long. And so I was really looking forward to see this movie, and it's really surprising just how many of the cliches that it sort of spins on its head. This group of girls in high school that throw this slumber party together, obviously, to set up for the film. And we have another girl in the school who lives next door, and her little sister's there while they're having this party together. And what you get is an introduction to these characters and the dynamic between them that is much different than how women in these 1980s horror films were perceived. They're hanging out and talking about sports, and there's a scene where a couple guys come over that they argue about like what happened at the baseball game the night before, and the dialogue is really driven so that you see them as people and less just as objects. And that was so cool to me, to have that kind of a development and realness, that they feel like people and not just some block written off as like, oh, these are just characters that get killed. You're actually interested in these characters and their actions. And it's obviously an 80s horror film, so there's a lot of really over-the-top dialogue, some super hokey moments throughout. There's this really great scene with a pizza delivery guy that is fantastic. It makes me laugh every time I see the movie. Yeah, it's interesting. There's a few moments that fall into that 80s trope. It feels intentional. It feels like a commentary on sexualization of women in horror films, and Amy Holden Jones kind of taking that and flipping it on its head, and I really appreciate this movie for that. Aside from its social commentary though, it's just a really well-made slasher. The character of Russ is just like terrifying. He wears all denim. It's like Bob from Twin Peaks, carries this giant power drill, and obviously it's like a very phallic image. That most of his dialogue feels very like sexual assaulty. You just kind of feel like this is Amy Holden Jones's commentary on the way men treat women, the way they speak to women, the way they objectify women, and it's really well done, but it doesn't feel ham-fisted. And I think it takes a very specific director to be able to convey a powerful social message in also be a comedic horror film. Tonal balance is difficult to juggle, and I think this movie executes it better than a lot of the films that I've seen, even like, you know, classic films. The movie really balances that tone and that message really, really well. Also, great atmosphere. One of the first kills in this film is one of the girls in the high school gymnasium and like locker area, and it's shot so well, and it builds tension and suspense, and there's a lot of great shots in this movie that are reminiscent of John Carpenter's Halloween, where Russ's character's hiding in the shadows and there's like light cast in certain spots. They're in a dark garage at one point, this couple in their car, and just like the way it's shot and the brutality of the kills, it's so well done. And I think not a lot of people give this movie a chance, and it's one of my all-time favorites. Yeah, that's my thoughts on the '82 Slumber Party Massacre. I think it's really a good movie that not a lot of people give a chance to. I would highly recommend checking it out if you've never seen it. It's definitely worth it. Now I'm going to talk about the 2021 Slumber Party Massacre. Directed by Danishka Esterhazy, and I hadn't heard anything about this movie until like a week before its release. And you know, a person who just loves movies, whenever a property's remade, you're always cautiously optimistic. And I've talked about this a few times. I talked about it in my Candyman review. I think when you remake someone's property, it's always cool to see someone who pays homage to the original, but also adds their own unique style. And I think that's the most important thing, is like a director has a voice. This is a person who, you know, wants to remake something, but thinks that there's a part of their personality and their message that they can give that will add more to it than what the original had to offer, and or just make people appreciate the original more. And I think this 2021 Slumber Party Massacre does that incredibly well. I'm not going to talk about spoilers in this movie. I think it's one that's so much fun and incredible to watch knowing nothing when you go into it. On the surface, this movie begins very similarly to how you feel a Slumber Party Massacre remake's gonna go. You know, we have these girls in a cabin together eating pizza, some guys come over, and Russ is introduced really quickly and starts murdering people off. And then we jump to present day, and things are a little different, and we're introduced to our new cast of characters. And what's great about it is, about, I don't know, a half hour into the movie or less, the movie completely turns the plot on its head. And what we get is this movie has a message that's just as important about, you know, how women are perceived, male friendship, and standing up for yourself, and treatment of women by men. It's got a very powerful statement that it does while juggling its message through comedy and horror. And this movie has a tonal balance similar to the first film in that it knows what it's trying to do. It has some incredibly over-the-top moments, but it doesn't ever not feel earned. All of it feels earned with how delicately it's introduced and how exciting it is when it's introduced. Danishka is clearly a great director. It seems like she has a fond appreciation for the original material. There's even a nod to Slumber Party Massacre 2 in this movie, which I thought was really cool. Characters are all well written. I think that, you know, the delivery of dialogue is important in this movie, and how certain characters are perceived is really important, and it's executed very well. The third act is just absolutely bonkers. I would have never guessed that this movie would have gone in this direction. The visual effects are super cool, gritty feel to it, and the effects all feel modern, but they feel very much in tribute to the effects of the 80s, and I really loved that about this movie. Like I said, I don't want to give too much away, but Russ's character is very similar in his dialogue delivery. You know, it feels very like someone going through what someone would go through when it comes to sexual assault. And I think that it's really cool when someone can take a property like this, put a message into it, and get it out to the general public, because there are large issues at hand in society, and sometimes life can be overwhelming, and things can be hard, and processing social injustice issues and racial inequality issues and all the problems that our society holds, it's great when you see a director take art to convey this message, but also provide comedic brevity and a message across while people are having fun, because it is important to constantly be thinking about these issues and, you know, trying to be there as a ear and eyes to help when these types of issues occur. And being able to put that out in media that is important to you is one of the reasons why I want to go into filmmaking and why I'm in film school. And it was really cool to see that on a horror movie on the Sci-Fi Channel at 9 o'clock at night. And I had a wonderful time watching this movie, and I would highly recommend it to everyone. I think both of these movies have very different and similar goals, that they both accomplish exactly what they want to do, and they're both a lot of fun. Have you guys seen the Slumber Party Massacre or the new Slumber Party Massacre remake? What did you think? Let me know in the comments down below. I'm always interested to hear what you guys have to say about these movies. I think they're both excellent in their own regard, and I think you should check out both of them whenever you get the chance. As always, I've got a lot of new videos coming out in the near future. I always appreciate making content for you guys, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.